Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Brannan Center, and thank you for attending tonight's 2022 State of the City Address. We're going to begin with a short 6-minute video featuring each of the city's 4 zone commissioners, followed by the main address and then resident recognitions with Mayor Russ Owen. Tonight's event is being live streamed, so if you'd like to watch video replay or sign up for notifications about what's happening next at City Hall, please visit us online at cityofnsb.com. And with that said, please sit back, relax, and again, thank you for joining with us tonight in celebrating the city of New Smyrna Beach.
Hello, Mike Colodi, Zone 1 Commissioner. The past 3 weeks, we've had a very rough time. Hurricane, which came in, it was unprecedented, sort of unexpected. However, it dealt us a severe blow. Flooding in numerous areas that didn't have flooding. Everything was designed according to plan. We were well prepared. Unfortunately, there was too much rain. What we have to do, and what I will do next year, is look to increase the level of protection. Hello, Mike Colodi, Zone 1 Commissioner. The past 3 weeks, we've had a very rough time due to the hurricane, which came in. It was unprecedented, sort of unexpected. However, it dealt us a severe blow. Flooding.
Good evening to my fellow New Smyrnans and visitors. I would like to take this opportunity to share this bittersweet moment of my retirement as your Zone 2 Commissioner.
What we have to do and what I will do next year
to the citizenry of New Smyrna Beach for their trust in electing me for 2 terms as your City Commissioner. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve the people of our city. I ran for City Commission to enhance the city I fell in love with and to make it a better place than how I received it.
Good evening
Despite
to my
many
fellow
challenges,
Smyrnans and
we actually
visitors.
accomplished a lot together.
I would like to take this opportunity
A
to
reward
share
of
this
being your
bittersweet
commissioner
moment
is the ability
of my
to
retirement
achieve many
as your
things
Zone
that
2
help our
Commissioner.
citizens. I
Thank
am
you to
most
the
proud of being
citizenry
the
of New
champion
Smyrna
for traffic
Beach
safety
for the
enhancements and of my environmental stewardship. These and other initiatives that I have spearheaded have enhanced the quality of life for our residents. To the city staff, employees, and volunteers, I would also like to thank you for your service. We are fortunate to have such a group of talented people who care so much for our beloved city. Again, it has been my distinct honor to be of service to you all. I will continue to be an active resident as we keep working together to serve our great city. Going forward, I ask each of you to channel your support towards electing qualified individuals that will represent our entire city with integrity, impartiality, and respect. So for now, it is not goodbye, but instead, this is see you around town.
I'd like to start tonight by thanking you all for coming out and spending the time to get to know what's going on in your city. First thing I'd like to talk about, which is clearly what is on everybody's mind, is Hurricane Ian and the aftermath that we have had after unprecedented flooding, reaching near or exceeding the 500-year flood. This flood and hurricane has brought devastation on many families throughout our community. Our goal is to get these families taken care of and their homes rebuilt, patched up, and get them back into their homes as soon as possible. We are aware of a FEMA requirement that is creating a lot of red tape and a bureaucratic process to get people's building permits to them so they can get going as soon as possible. I want you to know that I'm aware of that. The commission is aware of that, and city staff is aware of that. And we're going to do whatever we need to do to make sure that we can get our residents the building permits they need to get their homes rebuilt and back into their homes as soon as possible.
I want to take a few minutes tonight to give a special thanks to everybody that was involved in this last major weather event that we had. A lot of you don't know what went on behind the lines. We had people out with pre-storm preparations for all of our parks, our buildings, pumping out storm drains, putting portable generators in place, portable pumps in place. Even those employees that were out there at the sports center who were in the rain handing out sandbags so that all of us residents could be a little bit more prepared for the events that were coming forward. I also want to thank all of those city staff that were involved in our emergency operations center. It was on staff for almost a full 7 days. Our city manager spent the entire week out there coordinating things and going through things, so we certainly do appreciate his efforts and all of staff's efforts. I want to mention our public safety people, police and fire, out there both pre and during, and then afterwards performing almost 200 rescues for people who were trapped and unable to get away from the vents. That's truly a special calling for those people, because you have to keep in mind that where they're out there watching over us and making sure that we're safe, they also have loved ones at home that are also going through the same event and the same ordeal. We do ask that you give us some time, have some patience, because it's going to be a long road to recovery. And I know that all of us will do our part to make sure that New Smyrna Beach is the best place to live. As I've said many times, our greatest asset in New Smyrna Beach is our citizens. So thank you all for everything that you did.
A big New Smyrna Beach welcome for Mayor Russ Owen.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How are we tonight? Thank you for that energy. I appreciate it. I love it. I'll match it. I'll give you a low energy. Can we try it one more time? How are we tonight? There we go. All right, this is the 2022 State of the City. Before we begin, though, I got to acknowledge I got a lot of important folks here. Most importantly, you all, the residents, are here. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being engaged and caring enough about your city to attend and learn more and hear more from us about what's been going on. Some other folks to acknowledge. You heard from them already, but your elected officials right here in New Smyrna Beach that have sacrificed so much to serve each of us. So let's give them some acknowledgement, starting with Zone 1 Commissioner Mike Colodi. Zone 2 Commissioner, and for a couple more days, he's joining me as we exit, Jake Sachs. Zone 3 Commissioner, current Vice Mayor Jason McGurk. Last but certainly not least, Zone 4 Commissioner Randy Hartman. We have some other current, former, and future elected officials I'm going to acknowledge here with us in the tonight. We have our county commissioner or county representative here with us, Danny Robbins. We have our future, soon-to-be state representative for this area, Chase Tremont. And this guy's just here because he likes me, but I'm still honored to have him here. He's the mayor of Holly Hill, Chris Villa. We have former elected official, I think I saw Judy Rikers. I can't find her, though. She's here somewhere, though. Judy, stand up and be acknowledged. Former Commissioner Judy Riker, there she is. And lastly, incoming mayor-elect, and the guy I'm most excited about because it means that I don't have to do this ever again, and that is Mayor-elect Dr. Fred Cleveland. We also have many, many city staff. Most of them are around the back of the room because they sit and listen to me talk all the time. So that's so they can make a quick exit as soon as I acknowledge it. No, I'm just kidding. But I want to acknowledge all of them. They're all important. They're all special to me and to you. But I will acknowledge our city manager, Khaled Rashidat. Now, for those of you that have been here before, and maybe if you haven't, normally we would go through tonight and we would do a summary by department. And I'd go through, and I'm a data guy, I'm a finance guy, so I default to charts and graphs to explain everything. So we would go through and we would do these summaries, and I would give you this inspiring but challenging summation about the state of our city. And I would say that our state of the city is strong and looking forward, and then we would all leave and we would feel good for a few minutes. But this is the last time that I am going to be standing here addressing you as your mayor. And some of you don't know whether to boo or applaud. That's okay. I'll take it all, frankly. So I wanted to do something a little bit different this time. As I looked back in preparing for this, I realized that a lot of things have changed. But the thing that has probably changed and evolved the most is the guy standing in front of you. And that growth and that change has taken many forms. And it's because I've had the opportunity to meet people that I'd have never met, many of you all. And I've had the opportunity to be a small part of many stories and play a small role in things I'd never even have known were happening around our community. From the highest pinnacles of achievement and accomplishment to the deepest pains and fears of humanity. And through all this, I've gained, I believe, a deeper understanding of our city and our community. And this has taken tremendous time. I sat down and did some calculations. By my estimation, I've invested somewhere between 5,000 to 7,000 hours of time over the past 4 years into this, and my fellow colleagues can say the same. And we don't have 5,000 hours tonight. I'm only going to take 1,000. So, but my desire tonight is to, in the time we do have, to allow you to see your city staff, your fellow neighbors, through a different lens, this unique lens that I now see this city. And it's important to note, though, that nothing I'm about to say is permanent. This is just a point in time. This is as of October 24th, 2022, and it will never again be exactly as it is tonight. Also, it's just my perspective. We all have our own unique perspective. So, the point is not to try and dwell on past accomplishments or scope out future solutions, which is normally what we try to do up here. But tonight is just me letting you know where I see us, the collective us, tonight. I'm going to talk some about you all. I'm going to talk some about myself, some about the commission, some about staff. Lastly, one thing I've grown to appreciate is that things can and do change quickly. I mentioned it earlier. Change can be driven by just one person. So if you don't like something you hear tonight, my challenge to you is don't ask who's going to change it. Ask, how can I change it? How can I be the one to improve that situation? So what is the state of the city as of October 24th, 2022? You heard it in the opening video. We're hurting. A few weeks ago, Hurricane Ian dropped record-breaking amounts of water up and down the coast. And this was after delivering devastation to our neighbors across the state. I can tell you, sometime in the overnight hours, as the storm struck, city teams and I believe our citizens realized that this was an event like none other we had experienced. See, we're no strangers to riding out hurricanes, but this was not like a normal hurricane. This was unprecedented. It brought a flooding element that was unprecedented. And as the waters rose overnight, our first responders began taking extraordinary measures to reach stranded and scared citizens and deliver them to safety. The city gym was quickly repurposed as a makeshift shelter. The sewer vacuum truck, which turned out to be the highest clearance vehicle that we had. We have MRAPs, we have a lot of other things, but it was one of the highest things. It was repurposed as a high water rescue vehicle. Importantly and heroically, many of you all and many other neighbors stepped up to help, kayaking and boating around neighborhoods, checking on folks and helping their neighbors reach the safety of higher ground. We'll likely never know the lives that were saved on that night by the heroic efforts of our first responders and our brave neighbors, but we owe them all our appreciation for their bravery. The pain of the storm didn't end as the storm moved off the shores, though. The waters began to recede in the hours and days that followed, But that's really, I think, when we all realized that the hard work was just beginning. But the state of our city has always been, and I hope always will be, resilient. For many, this event will have lifelong financial and emotional impacts. Families will certainly move on, but they will likely never be the same. To me, though, being resilient doesn't mean that you're unfazed or unchanged. This event has certainly changed us as a city. There are lessons we must learn. I believe in difficult situations like this, we're defined by how we respond. And I'm proud of how we responded both in the moment and in the days and weeks since. Our New Smyrna Beach Utilities Commission, in the days immediately after the storm, set out to restore power to all impacted homes. They set an aggressive timeline and brought in external municipal partners to help. And through the hard work of these employees, we had power restored ahead of anticipated schedules for most neighborhoods in New Smyrna Beach. And by the way, I see people sometimes complaining about our Utilities Commission, and they oftentimes will bring up, well, why aren't we part of a bigger system like FPL? And if we were, somehow our power wouldn't go out during a hurricane, I guess. The reality is this, let me tell you this. I just read an article about this in Florida Trends. We have the lowest utility rates in the state, except for one little small town that must be sitting on top of a uranium mine or something. We have the lowest in the state. Our reliability has been a struggle. The current leadership has been making investments and is continuing to make investments and changes to address reliability. But we have it really well. And after a storm event like this, we're the number one priority for our Utilities Commission. Any guess what number we would be for FPL or Duke? Near the bottom. So I'm very proud of our team. I'm proud of how they've responded, and I'm proud of what we're doing at the Utilities Commission. That's right. But it wasn't just our utilities team working hard. City teams were mobilized to clear streets, deploy pumps, and perform hundreds of wellness checks. We had numerous members of staff, and that included police and fire, of course. Those are our first responders. But it was also including everyone else. Our public works team did a yeoman's effort in helping to clear the way sometimes for police and fire to reach certain areas, to clear things off of, to clear things so that they could reach there. We had back office functions like IT and city clerk's office and human resources and finance. They didn't just go home and ride out the storm. They were there in our emergency operations center, staffing it, as you heard, for up to a week, 24/7. One of the key components is that was staffing the citizen hotline. So you all had a way to call and get information, the best that we had, at least, about the storm. So we appreciate all of the efforts of all the staff engaged in that process. Elected leaders also were out and about in the neighborhoods, hearing directly from residents, relaying information back to city teams about needs in the community where we needed resources deployed. I began, along with my colleagues, to immediately lobby county, state, federal leaders to send additional resources, not just to Volusia County, but straight to New Smyrna Beach, including FEMA representatives and resources. And by the way, I have to give a special thanks, and some are here, some aren't. But I want to call these folks by name: Congressman Waltz, State Senator Wright, State Representative Tom Leake, incoming State Representative Chase Tremont, Councilman Danny Robbins, and representatives from the governor's office, all of whom took my calls immediately or reached out to me before I could even call them to ask how they could help, to offer the support, and they've continued to stay in touch, checking on us and you all throughout this event, and I really do appreciate that. When things like this happen, I believe part of being resilient, as I mentioned, isn't just focusing on repairing and rebuilding. It's also looking towards the future and asking ourselves, what can we and should we do differently to be better prepared if something like this were to happen again? And this is taking, I will tell you, as we do that reflection, as we do that postmortem, it's taking many different forms. On our front lines, our public safety teams are examining the equipment and the procedures that they have in place to make sure they're better prepared based on the lessons that we learned. One sentiment, though, that I heard expressed, you all may have heard this, overwhelmingly in the days since the event, was that recent development was potentially to be blamed for the flooding. And I think it's important to note, what do I mean when I say recent development? It's different for all of us. It means anything that was built after your house. That's the definition of recent development. Whatever the case, though, I think we can all agree that we should take a moment as a city and as a community to try and digest all the lessons that we can learn from this. And it makes sense, to me at least, that we do this before more building is allowed in New Smyrna Beach. And that is why the first meeting after the storm, I asked staff to begin working on a temporary building moratorium of large-scale developments in New Smyrna Beach. And this concept was supported unanimously by the rest of the commission. Thank you. Unfortunately, due to public hearing process, it's going to take a little bit of time, not months and months, but a few weeks. So it means it will come to the commission after my time is finished. But I urge every candidate that's here with us tonight, if you're elected, support this initiative. But I want to be crystal clear for everyone. I want to make sure we set the expectation. A moratorium is not a solution. A moratorium is like calling a timeout on a critical fourth quarter drive. It just gives us a minute to design a play that we think is going to work. It gives us a minute to look and study past developments and fold those lessons learned into a game plan for policy changes that we then must execute. The easiest part is calling the timeout. The hard part then begins to develop the policy changes that we can wrap around and that are within the guidelines of the applicable laws and policies at a state level and beyond, and build those into what we're going to do moving forward. For just a moment, though, on this notion of resiliency, before we move beyond, or I want to move beyond the storm, I've watched as our city has been resilient through many, many different challenges. And one way that we're resilient as a city is we normally have people like you all, that step up and that help out and that pitch in and that take care of neighbors, take care of random strangers. And one couple that's quietly been here in our community and has done this many times and supported many different causes in our community have joined us tonight. These two have given generously to many causes throughout the years, including stepping up to feed city staff and utility workers many times during storm events, and even this latest one. Almost all of what they do, you may say, I never heard about that. That's because most of what they do extremely privately without seeking any credit, which I deeply respect. But tonight, I want to honor Jeff and Paige Garris, owners of The Garlic, with an award. So Jeff and Paige, if you join me. Come on up. You got to come up. Come on up. Come on. Come on up. All right. You don't have to give a speech.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. This is for you all. This is the Mayor's Heart of Smyrna Award. I promise you don't have to give a speech, but I'm going to say a few more nice things about you. They were truly surprised. They had no clue. And I thought for a minute they were just going to leave me hanging. So thank you all for that. I appreciate it. Very awkward for me. As I said, most of what they do, they don't do it to be public, and they don't do it for any credit. And I honor those wishes tonight. I heard a lot of stories that I could share, but I'll respect your privacy on that. But I do have one very personal story to tell you that they may have also not wanted me to tell, but I'm going to do it anyway. Last year, unfortunately, we had a firefighter suffer a serious medical condition. And last November, as we approached Thanksgiving, him and his family were still in Jacksonville for rehabilitation. And as Thanksgiving Day approached, my heart went out to that family, and I was thinking of some way to let them know that we were here in New Smyrna Beach, hadn't forgotten about them, and I wanted to bring them a taste of New Smyrna Beach. So I reached out to Jeff and Paige, who I'd actually never met that I remembered in person, and I reached out to them a few days before Thanksgiving, and I shared the story. And I was hoping that I could take the family a Thanksgiving feast. And before I could finish the sentence, before I could finish the ask, Jeff said, how many am I feeding? That was his only question. So I met them at the restaurant on Thanksgiving morning. Jeff and Paige personally helped work with the chef, prepare the food, and then helped me load it in the car to deliver to that family. And I know there are many, many other stories like that replicated across our city. So on behalf of the city, we're grateful to have you all as an integral part of New Smyrna Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Careful, go down. We're gonna do pictures after, Vic. Going down. Hey, we're doing pictures after.
Oh, okay.
All right, go on. You're good.
Oh, we're good?
Yeah, you're good.
We're good, go ahead. Thank you.
All right. As a city, we've faced many other storms. And as I reflected back on the past 4 years, just the past 4 years, and we've endured COVID. We've been invaded by spring breakers. And every time I've seen city staff and folks from our community like Jeff and Paige and many, many others step up together to face every challenge. And that's why the state of our city is also united. In my 4 years, I've seen that when you cut through all the stereotypes, and I'm going to give a trigger warning here for just a minute. When you cut through all the stereotypes, the blue team, the red team, growth, no growth, pro-business, anti-business, pro-parking, anti-parking, confused about parking, we're actually all more united than we realize. After events like Ian, I can tell you this, all the veneers start to be peeled away, and neighbors become just that, just neighbors again. And it no longer matters what politician's yard sign was in the yard the night before, because that floated away. And we emerge from our homes, not as red team and blue team, but as neighbors and proud and resilient New Smyrnians. I've seen tremendous unity in the city over the past 4 years. I've seen folks that thought they disagreed with each other about everything, but they were willing to sit down and discuss those differences. And when they did, a magical thing happened. They liked each other. And they realized that while their approach may be different, and certainly some visions may differ, that the motives and the passions related to New Smyrna Beach were very, very similar. They found that neither person was out to destroy this community we all love and its history, that all wanted to improve and protect New Smyrna Beach, and that there were wide swaths of common middle ground they could work together for common good. The loneliest place on the planet right now, by the way, is the middle ground. Just in case you're wondering where you can go to find no crowds, it's the middle ground. I want to pause here and acknowledge someone else that has joined us tonight. She's worked tirelessly in our community to unite people for a good cause. She just completed a 10-year term on the board of the Southeast Volusia Habitat for Humanity. She was the chair of the board for the final 3 years of that time. She was then selected to serve on the state Habitat board and continues to serve the Habitat mission at the state level. It's my honor tonight to present Regis Sloan with the mayor's, Service to Smyrna Award. Regis, join me on stage, please. Congratulations. That's for you. All right. Regis has been on the Housing Authority Board for years and tirelessly works to improve affordable housing for those in need in our community. She's also a member of the Human Services Ministry of Our Lady Star of the Sea. In that role, she's directly involved with finding housing and utility funds for those most in need in our community. Beyond just temporary help, which she certainly works tirelessly at, she provides financial and general life guidance and advice to those in need, helping them return to a more self-sustaining lifestyle. And I believe as long as we have folks like Regis serving us in our community, we will always remain united. Congratulations. It's my honor. However, I have to say, the state of the city is also divided. You have to be asking yourself what award I'm going to give out for this one. I'll just leave you to wonder. Just hope it's not you. An alarming trend that certainly wasn't new in 2018 when I was first elected, but I believe it's gotten significantly worse in the past 4 years, is that we're increasingly retreating to our echo chambers, fueled by social media algorithms that serve us a curated set of influencers that reinforce our own preconceived notions rather than challenging them. We are left then judging books by covers, refusing to hear out the other side, not seeking middle ground. So I challenge you, surround yourself with a few people in your closest circle. I wrote closet circle, but I think it's closest. Surround yourself with a few folks in your closet or closest circle that don't like you, don't think like you, and seek to find things that you agree on with those folks. You may be amazed again how much you have in common. I long for a day when we judge politicians by how much unity they can bring, not how much division they can spread. This is still possible at the local level. We can and should have high standards for civility in political proceedings in our city. And in this regard, I'm proud to report that the state of the city today is indeed civil. I mean this specifically when it comes to the political proceedings in City Hall. And by the way, I have to point this out because it's not like this in every other city. I watch a lot of other city meetings. I watch a lot of other government proceedings. We are becoming a bit of an anomaly, but I'm very proud of what we have done and how we have operated in our City Hall. And it doesn't mean it's all happy little rainbows, by the way. It doesn't mean that we agree on everything. The five of us rarely have a 5-0 vote, except for routine business items. 3-2 is our most common vote. Jake is retiring. I think I can say this. I think he'll take it the right way. Jake is a man of his word. That word is no, but he's a man of his word. Love you, Jake. But I cannot express how proud I am of the way we conduct business, even in our sometimes vehement disagreements. There's no cursing, no name calling. There's respect for citizens, for our staff, for fellow commissioners, and for the center position, that chair position. Thank you, Chase. I appreciate it. Chase is currently a council member in Port Orange. He has an appreciation for this, I guess. In a few days here, we'll be choosing who would represent us in 2 positions for the next 4 years. And my challenge to those candidates that have joined us tonight, whoever's elected, make us proud. Uphold this tradition. And to my fellow citizens, if this begins to change, know that it can and will set our city back years. We will lose good staff who refuse to work in a less than professional environment. There's already a lot of headwinds for getting good staff to work in the public sector. We don't need to add to it an unprofessional work environment. We'll lose good relations with other cities and with other agencies like the county, state, and federal representatives, and this will hinder our chances for grants and other critical support at times when we need it the most, like after storms. So may the state of our city always remain as it is today, and that is civil. The state of our city is changing. Again, trigger warning. This has layers to it, some positive, some negative. There's no denying the reality that it is indeed changing. What is important, though, is how we respond to the change. A joke I've made many times, probably made it right here on the stage. There's 2 things that everyone hates: change and the way things are. And in New Smyrna Beach, I can say that in many cases, we actually are very happy with the way things are, or at least the way they were the day we arrived in New Smyrna Beach. Much of what this commission has been doing over the past 4 years has been working to preserve and protect New Smyrna Beach while acknowledging the fact that there will be changes. I wanted to share tonight a couple ways how I see New Smyrna Beach changing. And again, this is just me sharing this one person's perspective. Now, I do have 5,000 hours dedicated to developing this perspective, but it's just one guy's perspective. And I'm not saying these things are good or bad or that I agree with them. I'm just wanting you all to know the reality that's facing the incoming commission and what's facing our community for the next 5 to 10 years. Number one, what is changing? Most people that I talk to, I don't know if this applies for you all, but most people I talk to have moved here in the past 2 to 10 years. Now, that can be very alarming to someone that has been here for 30 plus years. And by the way, my family moved here right at 30 years ago. But the irony is that the folks that moved here 2 to 10 years are just as protective, just as passionate about New Smyrna Beach, and perhaps even more so. And they're just as likely to get frustrated about things that they see changing as the person that's been here for 30 or 40 years or multiple generations. I'll tell you, I've had to hold my tongue a few times when I listen to someone in Coastal Woods complain about new development happening in Venetian Bay. The irony is not lost on me. This used to be a town where you were born and raised and stayed in New Smyrna Beach, but that, I'm afraid, is no longer the case. I don't know whether it should or shouldn't be. I'm not judging on that. I'm just saying that's what I'm seeing. That's the trend I'm seeing in this newly elected commission and future commissions over the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to have to adopt to that new reality and figure out how to address that. The number 2 thing I see changing, we've solidified ourselves as a desirable tourist destination. By the way, I have to clarify, just a brief moment. We haven't had the billboard that says Orlando's Beach. We haven't had that in like 7 years. It was up for about 10 minutes. Genuinely, it was up for like 6 months, and then it came down. I still get people contacting me, well, if we would just take those billboards down. They're down. But we have established ourselves as a desirable tourist destination. Again, positive and negatives to this, depending on which angle you look at it from, but it is a fact. I travel quite a bit now for my new role. And I find myself sitting at random airports talking to people, and I used to introduce myself as being from a little town south of Daytona. I now just say New Smyrna Beach, and a good number of people have heard about it. They know about New Smyrna Beach. So we're now more on the scene. We have people that know us. We have restaurants that are featured in Southern Living. We have restaurants that are featured on TV shows. How we respond to this over the next 5 to 10 years is going to be very critical. There are parts of this we absolutely, I believe, should lean into and embrace, and it could be positives for our economy, for longtime locals and newcomers alike. But there's parts of this I think we have to be very careful about. I predict that we're a little bit at this tipping point, and we could have this plethora of large corporate influences coming in. And I will tell you this, and again, just my perspective, I am from the next generation. I'm the generation that's now reaching, as hard as this is for me to admit, that's now reaching or has reached middle class and middle age. And what that means is that I'm now the generation that over the next 5 to 10 years will more and more increasingly drive the economy. And I can tell you what we're seeking more and more, my generation, or at least folks that think like me, is authenticity. I don't get excited about seeing an outlet mall, but I do love to find a historic downtown like Canal Street. I'll drive past 100 Olive Gardens to reach the Garlic. Now, I'm not the voice for an entire generation, but that's just my perspective. By the way, I have to say this as a point of personal privilege here for a minute. I am a millennial. I'm an old millennial, but I am a millennial. We range from about 40 to 26, down to about 26. So the youngest millennial at this point is staring 30 in the face. So when you see young kids doing crazy things, it's not millennials. Stop blaming millennials. Millennials are out here trying to raise families and figure out how to afford a house by cutting a $3 cup of coffee. We're wondering why no one has ever offered us a pension, and we're stressing about whether Social Security will survive until we reach retirement age at 80. So, and by the way, for Gen Z, let's not be such harsh judges. Those kids are being raised in a time when everything they do is captured in 4K high definition. And if I told everyone in this audience that we just unearthed thousands of hours of footage from your high school or your college days, you'd stress a little bit too. And we'd probably find some stuff that may change the course of your life. So not defending anything that they do, but just let's give them a little bit of a break. But I digress. That's right. There we go. Some Gen Z are sitting over there. That was who was clapping. Another part of the demographic that I see changing, and it's a little bit anecdotal, but that is, and it may be controversial, I don't know, but the wealth of our community. I don't have data to support this yet. The data will tell in 5 years whether I'm right or wrong. But it feels like every person that moves here is bringing more and more wealth with them. There are higher levels of wealth coming to our community every day. And why that's important to notice is it brings with it a different demand for services. And we're right in the middle of this. So if this trend holds, it'll just be very interesting. Vice Mayor McGurk likes to say, New Smyrna Beach used to be a place where you didn't pay a lot to live here, but you didn't get a lot. It's his quote. One big amenity was the beach, and that's kind of all you needed. You lived here, you worked a few hours to go spend some time on the beach, and that was kind of all that you did. That's not the culture that's developing right now. As we have new folks coming in, that's not what we're seeing. That's not what we as a commission are hearing from folks. They're wanting more and more amenities. They're wanting more and more services. So this is another change that I think will cause tension for future commissions. And what do I mean by tension? Well, let's talk property tax rates. You've heard me talk about it previously. We have historically been the second lowest property tax rate in Volusia County. If you own a $300,000 home, it was cheaper to own it here than any other city except for DeBerry. That's no longer the case, and that's no longer the trend that we're seeing. We're seeing people saying they're not so worried about paying a few more dollars on property tax. They want more amenities. They want landscaping. They want pickleball, right? That's our pickleball guy. So we're kind of in the Holly, a little plug for the Holly-O pickleball courts. All right, I'll accept it. They said they were going to heckle me. That's why he said he was here tonight. All right. So this is where we're at. We're a little bit in the middle of this. I believe we're going to get through it as long as we keep things professional, as long as we have civil discourse throughout this, what we call the messy middle. We're going to be okay, but we have to acknowledge that change is real. Some changes we can fight, some we may want to embrace, some we may can control, and some we can't. But for us to manage through these changing times, we're going to need active and engaged citizens, folks that are willing to give their own time, talent, and treasure for causes that are beyond themselves and for reasons bigger than their own. One such person I wanted to recognize that's joining us tonight has done this for many years in our community. She was a founding board member of the Southeast Volusia Habitat for Humanity and has served on that board for 28 years, and she's now the chair. She's also served as a board member of Kudas Unhooked since its inception. And by the way, if you don't know about that charity, that's one to look up. If you want to help in a hyper-local way, look up Kudas Unhooked. She's made many, many other meaningful contributions to that organization and many, many others. It's my honor to present this year Kay Walker as our Citizen of the Year. Kay, join me on stage. Yeah, come on over. That's for you. Hang on. Hang on. Kay, those of you that know all of this already, but Kay is an incredible advocate for those in need. In addition to everything I just said, she's also, she founded the New Smyrna Beach Holiday Charity Ball. She's active in Kiwanis. She's active in the Southeast Volusia Republican Club. She served on the boards for the Chamber of Commerce, the Southeast Volusia YMCA, the American Cancer Society, and the Foundation Board for Florida Hospital. And honestly, I probably missed a few. A few weeks ago, or months ago maybe now, Kay was in a terrible, tragic automobile accident. And I'll never forget, I was actually on the phone with Chase Tremont when we got the news. We heard the news, and literally all we knew at the time, Kay, was that it was bad. And Chase got the text, and he said, "Oh, Russ, Kay was just in an accident, and she's bad." We ended our call. We were just kind of in stunned silence at the thought of possibly losing this great community asset. But Kay's a fighter, and she's come back from that, and she's, from all accounts, stronger than ever, and New Smyrna Beach is the better for it. So, Kay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So an interesting story I've never shared publicly, and she's not listening, so I'll sneak it in. When I first ran for office, Kay was supporting another candidate. But we all make mistakes. So in fairness, we had never met. But she did eventually meet me, and she's been there to support me with anything I've ever needed from that day forward, and I appreciate it more than you'll ever know, Kay. We have one other special guest I wanted to acknowledge tonight. This person's engagement and involvement in all things New Smyrna Beach dates back decades. I can tell you, I thought I knew this person pretty well, but in preparing for tonight, I learned many, many impressive things that I'd never known. Her impact has truly helped influence and shape New Smyrna Beach. And that's why it's my honor tonight to present what I believe to be, based on all the research that I can do, the first ever key to the city to my friend and yours, Sally Gillespie. Sally, join me up. But I love it. All right. I'll tell you about this in a minute. Come around. Come over here with me. All right. So first I have to say this key, The actual key with the plaque and everything was delayed due to some shipping stuff with Ian. So this is one we just found laying around. It may actually be a key to something. So just try it around town, see what building we gave you. I don't know. So I first knew of Sally long before we'd ever met. I'd seen you speak at commission meetings, and I was always impressed at the grace and dignity with which you tackled very difficult and complex situations. I was also impressed by the time you dedicated to gathering facts to form opinions and not just reading a headline. Most of you all know Sally is a co-founder of the Residents Coalition. In that capacity, you may agree or disagree with the stances that she's taken. And as an aside, I think, Sally, you know, I've talked about this, but I think people believe that you and I agree on everything. The reality is, as I reflected, her and I, yeah, there's been 3 or 4 major topics during my time in office that we've talked about. And we've discussed a few, but there's been 3 or 4 that are kind of the major sentinel items. We've talked about them, and we've come down on different sides of every single one of those issues, as best I can recollect. Not purely, and we've certainly, your thoughts have informed my decision, but ultimately just decided that we disagreed. But so whether you disagree or agree with her, no one can deny that she's dedicated tremendous amounts of time and energy to fighting for the city that she loves so dearly. And she's inspired so many others, myself included, to do the same. She's a living legend and legacy in New Smyrna Beach. It's my honor to call you a friend and a mentor, even when you don't like my socks. It's a story for another day. And to present you with this key to the city. Thank you, Sally. When I ran for office 4 years ago, I didn't know what I was doing, first of all. I'll admit that. I said it then, but I can definitely say it now. But I made a couple of promises, and I've done my best to deliver on those. Some we pushed farther than others, but I assure you I gave 100% effort to your city these past 4 years. I said we'd look at leadership from top to bottom, and then we'd raise the bar and try to make sure we had the best possible people representing us in every possible department. And I think we've done that. I said we'd look at development standards and raise them. And with the support of the commission, we've done that, and we'll continue to do so. I said I'd be involved in the city and be present for citizens, and I've done that, 5,000 plus hours. I said that I'd bring unprecedented levels of transparency to our government. Tonight, we're live streaming right here from the Brandon Center. Many, many other initiatives the commission has supported, and we've done that. I said I'd work on a personal level to unite and unify and not to spread division. And I've done my absolute best to do this. The work isn't finished, though. On each of those issues and so many, many others, the work is actually, I realize now, never going to be finished. There is no check mark you can put next to those items and the others we talked through tonight. That's why I challenge each of you, my fellow citizens, to stay engaged, stay involved. So again, I normally would give some great summation of the state of the city, and it would sound hopefully inspiring, and it would say the state of the city is strong and looking forward. But as I reflected on this, I realized that the state of the city is whatever you make it, whatever you go out tomorrow and choose to focus on. Whatever impact you choose to have on the world around you. You can choose to be like Jeff and Regis and Kay and Sally and have a tremendous positive impact. You can choose to be like elected officials that have stepped up to serve, like the candidates that I have so much respect for that are here with us tonight, that have stepped up willing to serve. You can be that, or you can just look around and find all the problems and say, well, somebody should do something. We've got a lot of that. We've got enough of that, frankly. So what is the state of the city tonight? The state of the city is up to you. Thank you all. It's been an honor.